Okay, hello. Rowan from Redis here, and I'm going to give you a demo today of a new capability that we've built into the Vector Set browser and demonstrate some of the cool things you can do with vectors and our new data type in Redis, available in Redis 8, called Vector Sets. So to do that, I'm going to use this app that you see here, Vector Set Browser. That's available on GitHub under GitHub/Redis/Vector Set Browser. And you'll need the new Redis 8 running, which will have the vector set data type. Today I'm going to show you vector math. Now, Salvatore and a friend did a video on this, and I want to show you how we've made this a little bit easier. You can build this right from our visual browser here, and you can do vector math and do cool things with vector sets. So let's show you how that works. First thing I'm going to show you is I've got a vector set called movies. This is 1,000 top movies with their descriptions turned into vector embeddings. And to demonstrate this today, what I'm going to show you is, obviously you can do a standard search. So let's find crime movies, perhaps. Usual Suspects, Pulp Fiction. Okay, that's working. First thing you're going to notice in this vector set browser is a capability we've added, which is visualization of vectors. So each vector, we've got, in this case, a heat map, just so you can get a sense of what the vectors actually look like. You can actually dive into the individual components of it. You can also get some different colors going on. This is just to kind of help you understand the the vector itself a little bit better and what it looks like. We have different ways of looking at that. That's helpful for comparison purposes. We're going to use this one today. So let's show you vector math. In the vector set browser, we've got this drop down. You can either search for a single vector or you can search for multiple vectors. When you select multi-vector, what that's going to do is it allow you to enter one or more, and you can add more vectors if you like. Here, I'm just going to do 2 today. Create 2 vectors and search against the database using a combination of those, or against a combination of those vectors. So for the first one, this is movies. So I'm going to search for, let's say we're going to search for, I happen to like dystopian sci-fi. So let's just put in a vector for dystopian sci-fi. You can say we just rendered that into a vector. That's the graphic for it. And I kind of like stuff from the 70s. It was kind of a cool time for dystopian sci-fi. And one of the most, I guess, iconic dystopian sci-fis from the 70s, if you haven't seen it, was A Clockwork Orange. So there it is. It's come right up as number 1. Or there we go, just updated, number 2. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add a second vector to this mix. So we're going to create a new vector for a new phrase. And perhaps what I want to do is actually say I don't want any movies that are sexually explicit or contain, sort of difficult scenes. So I know Clockwork Orange was definitely one of those movies. I remember watching it as a kid. It was the 70s. We probably shouldn't have done that. Sexually explicit. So what we can do is we can actually subtract the vector for sexually explicit movies. So we've now created a vector. We have the first one here for dystopian sci-fis. We have now created a vector for sexually explicit, the phrase. And then we're just taking the first vector and the second vector, and we're actually subtracting the second vector from the first vector. Since it's just a big long number, we can do math and just subtract them from each other. That's doing a linear combination. And as a result, you can see here, this is the math, and this is the combined vector that we then search Redis vector set against. And what you'll see is that now the movie Clockwork Orange, is no longer showing up. So it's done a good job of combining those vectors. So that's a simple version of how you can use vectors and actually combine them and subtract them and add them and do multiple to do more interesting things. So that's one example. Now I want to do another example, which is doing images. So let's create a new vector set. And I'm going to create that using the default embedding model here, which is a clip model. And a clip model is a multimodal model that supports images and text. So created that. Another new capability in the vector set browser is drag and drop. So I've got some images here, and Salvatore did a cool demo the other day using popes and statues. So we're going to do something similar. So I'm going to pick a few images here. Popes, got a pope in red, a pope in white, a pope, And we've got a statue of a pope and a statue. So let's do those two. And let's just drag those onto the vector set. And we're going to create vectors for those. There they are. And we've also stored another capability in the vector set browser. We'll store the thumbnail of the image right within Redis. So we can do that. We can search against it. There you can see the answers there. We've got statue. We didn't get statue in there. Hold on. Let's do that one. The image could not be processed. Okay, well, we got a bug there. Interesting. Let's see if I can reboot here. It's not letting me add the statue JPEG. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we've got our images. And what we can do is let's go back to the multi-vector math. And let's create a vector for the word pope. And there we can see the popes come up first and the statues at the end. That's appropriate. It's got a score of 0.65 at the top, down to 6.4, and then a 6.3 for the statue and a 6.2 for just a regular statue. So statue of the pope is higher when we search for pope than the vector search for a statue. Now maybe we say, look, I actually want statues, so I'm going to put in pope and I'm going to put in statue as two separate vectors. And we're adding them in this case. The last demo was subtracting. And now what you can see is statue of pope comes up first, and statue comes up second, and then you've got the popes. So that's another example of vector math, and you can do that with images, of course. So we could actually just drag and drop images right into these fields, and then we would do the math on the vectors for images. So lots of handy new features in the vector set browser and in vector sets to play with and to see how that's going to work for you. Here's another example of vector visualization. We've been hearing that people want to have a way to easily visualize their vectors, especially as you're trying to pick the right embedding engine. This can help you look at things like clustering and hotspots and distribution of your data in the vector space. Pretty important when you're trying to find the right model to use for your particular data. So, simple example of vector math and some of the new capabilities of the vector set browser. Thanks for watching.